welcome to the Culinary Command Post. I'm Trisha Bear. I'm your host and chef for this morning's cooking show. So today we're going to teach you how to make soft cherry maraschino cookies. And so what we have here is we have 3/4 cups of butter. You want to start over? Shoot. Let me start over so you don't have to edit that. That was done. Okay, I'll start again. Good morning. Welcome to the Culinary Command Post. My name is Trisha Bear, and I'm the host of today's show. And today we're going to be making soft cherry maraschino cookies. And so the ingredients that you need for that is going to be 3/4 cup of softened butter, the regular butter, not unsalted. And then you need 1 cup of brown sugar. You need 1 egg at room temperature, and I didn't have my egg out long enough, so what I did is I just put warm water in the bowl and put the egg in it to get it back to room temperature. And then you need 2 tablespoons of milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2 cups of all-purpose flour sifted, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and then half a teaspoon of salt. And then after we get all that mixed up, we're going to add in our coconut, half a cup of coconut, half a cup of pecans, and then half a cup of cherries. But if you want to use more than half a cup, you can. I prefer to use a cup on my recipe, so I want to be able to taste the pecans and the coconut. But at least half a cup up to a cup. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mix our butter with our brown sugar. So it's 3/4 cup of softened butter, and then we're going to mix in 1 cup of brown sugar, and we're going to let that mix together first, and then we're going to add in our egg and our vanilla and our milk. Okay, and don't forget to scrape down your sides, because sometimes the butter does stick on the side. I'm going to mix it up one more time for a few seconds. Okay, we have our butter and our brown sugar mixed. So now we're going to add our 1 egg. Let that up. Okay, we're going to mix in our egg, and then we'll mix in our milk and our vanilla. Okay, now we're going to add our 2 tablespoons of milk. And our 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, and now we have our 2 cups of flour that's sifted, all-purpose flour that's sifted. And I'm going to go ahead and put the salt and the baking soda. I'm going to put it in with the flour, mix it up with a whisk, and then I'm going to put it in with the wet ingredients, the sugar, the butter, and the vanilla and the milk. So basically this is the creaming method, where we mix the butter and the sugar together, add the wet ingredients, and then we're going to add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. Now this recipe will make about 18 cookies, but I'm going to add a little more pecans, like another half a cup of pecans and coconut to my batch. And so it'd probably make almost 2 dozen cookies. Sure, I got everything out of here. Okay. Let me do that again real fast. Okay, now we're going to put our dry ingredients in. Okay, when you're mixing your brown sugar and butter, be sure to mix it about at least 5 minutes. And that just makes your cookies lighter and fluffier if you do that. So 5 to 7 minutes, mix your brown sugar and your butter, and then you add in your egg and your vanilla and your milk, and then you add in your dry ingredients, which is going to be your all-purpose flour, your salt, and your baking powder, or baking soda. So you got baking soda, flour, and salt. You add in at the end. Okay. Then we're going to fold in our pecans and our cherries and our coconut. Now I'm going to use a cup of each, and I'll use a half a cup of cherries because I'm going to put 1 cherry in the center of the cookies once I get the dough made up. Okay, so 1 cup of pecans, 1 cup of coconut, and then you're going to drain your juice off of the cherries before you put them in the cookies. All right. What I like to do is I like to use scissors to chop up the cherries inside of it. So first I'm going to mix in the nuts and coconut, and then I'm going to add in the cherries. I'm just trying to make sure the dough has enough nuts and coconut in them. These are soft cookies, and I am going to put them in the refrigerator after I get them scooped out, so that they don't spread, so they're thicker and not flat. And I'm using my Good Cook baking sheets today. They have some kind of moisture barrier built underneath, moisture barrier, and it's built underneath the pan so they don't burn. I'm just going to pour in half of these, and I'm going to chop them up in there. And I just make them in 4, so I cut them twice. And you can use a knife if you want, but I just use the scissors. They're quicker. And you're going to fold that into your cookie dough that has the coconut and the pecans. Now, the recipe says do not grease the cookie sheet, so I didn't grease mine because they're non-stick. And I'm not even going to have to use parchment paper on these. If you don't have a non-stick cookie sheet, then yeah, I would use parchment paper or spray it with Pam spray with flour. Okay, I got my cherries cut up, and now I'm just folding the cherries into the cookie dough. Just remember to use baking soda, not baking powder, when you're assembling your ingredients. All right. Okay, got the cookie dough mixed up with the cherries, coconut, and pecans. Okay, now we're going to use our cookie sheets, and we're just going to set them on our cookie sheets a couple inches apart. They're not really going to spread that much because we're going to chill them for an hour, and that makes pretty much all cookies not spread. Use that one first. And I'm not using the small scoop, I'm using a medium scoop and not the large scoop because I think it makes better cookies, and that way this recipe will make, if you add a cup of pecans and a cup of coconut, it should make 2 dozen. If not, it'll make 1.5 dozen if you only put half a cup of coconut and half a cup of pecans. And I just basically fill it up in the pan and then press down on the dough so it's flush, and then release it on my cookie pan. And these cookies right here, you don't even have to roll them in your hand because they come out already in a pretty good shape. And I'm just smashing down the cookie dough into the, I want to say it's a medium scoop, and then releasing it on the cookie pan. And I am kind of wiping the outer edges with my glove to make sure I don't have any extra dough on the outside. I just bought a new scoop too. It don't scoop like this should. Don't have it off. Can you freeze it for a second? I'm going to get another scoop. I just bought this one too. It works good once or twice, and then it doesn't work very good. The scooper. I'm going to see if I got another scooper. Okay. I just bought that one, and I used it at home, so it was working. Crap. Let me look over there. I'm going to go around you. I swore I just used that one. It's better that way. So if your scoop sticks, you can put some Pam spray on it, and I like the one with baking. It's got flour in it, and it does work the best as far as the spray Pam goes. That one over. Yeah, much better. So if it sticks, just spray your scooper with the Pam spray. Your smaller one. Okay, so I'm going to spread them out a little bit. So this one, the second batch only made about 10. So it's almost 2 dozen if you add 1 cup of coconut and 1 cup of pecans. All right, so now we're ready to chill them in the fridge for an hour, and then we'll be ready to bake them. Now what I could do, I'm going to add a cherry to the center of each cookies now before they get frozen or chilled. You can do either way. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. That way all I got to do is put them in the oven when they get done. So either way, you can do them before you put them in the fridge to chill for an hour or after. But I'm going to go ahead and put the cherry in the center right now. That way I can have that part done. And I'm just turning it to where the opening part is in the center and just barely push it down. They'll spread just a little, not too much, so that they're not too thin. If you've never watched the H-Town Theater show, the showcase in Henrietta, I highly recommend it. The next one's going to be the last weekend in March, the last Friday and Saturday in March. These kids are super talented. They sing really well. They dance. They act. So it's really, I think, the best entertainment in Henrietta is going to the H-Town Theater shows. Just barely gently stick them in the center. Just like so. Yeah. If you can, I would go ahead and put the cherries in before you put them in the fridge to chill, because it's going to be easier to get the cherry to stay in that center because they're still soft at that point. So, and I just had put these in the fridge, so I could tell a difference already trying to put the cherry in the center. So just do it before you put them in the fridge. That'll make it easier, and that way they don't fall off. Alright, now I'm just going to go around the edges and make sure the coconut is pushed in and not sticking out. It makes it a better presentation that way. And if you got the time, you can roll them before you put the cherry on them too, but I think they look fine just like they are coming out of the oven without rolling them on this recipe. Some recipes, yeah, you need to roll. But this one's okay. All right, that looks good. So now we're going to put them in the fridge for an hour to chill. And then once we get them out of the fridge, then we're going to put them in the oven. And they only have to cook for like 10 to 12 minutes, so they're super quick. The only thing that really takes a lot of time on this recipe is waiting for them to chill. But I do recommend that because that way they don't spread and they're not flat and they burn that way. Okay. So we're going to wait to heat our oven up to 375. Once we get them out of the fridge, we'll heat the oven. Cherry cookies out of the refrigerator.
Right.
They've been in there over an hour to chill, and now I'm putting them in the oven.
Yeah, and one cherry jumped.
One cherry jumped cookie.
He jumped.
Let me get a glove, and I'll put them back on.
He was trying to escape the heat, I think.
Trying to.
Right.
Don't ship.
Look at that. He jumped off. But that happens in the kitchen.
Just put them barely on to stick them back in. Yeah, and that's why I was telling them to put the cherry on before you chill them, because it's hard to put on if you don't. Okay, so now we're going to put them in the oven. Let me make sure I got the right temperature on them, though. And they're going to be, I think, 350.
I think you said 350.
Yeah, 375.
375?
Okay. So yeah, so we're gonna put them in the oven for 375 at 375. Bake. Off. Bake at 375. Where's that rolling?
Bake.
Yeah, and 375. And it's usually 10 to 12 minutes.
Right.
So on my oven at home, it's 10, but we're going to check them here and make sure. It's going to be 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Right.
Minutes. Yep. It's brown.
All right.
So we can check it. You want to hold your camera?
All right. So, what are these called?
These are called soft cherry Marciano cookies.
Marciano cookies.
Yes.
All right.
They're homemade cookies. They're cherry cookies.
Yeah, they are soft.
Yeah, they got pecans in them and coconut and cherry. That's the main 3 ingredients that's in them.
Yeah, they're lovely.
You like them?
Good. Yeah, they're good.
Cool.
Super good.
They're super easy to make.
Don't miss the Culinary Command Post Sundays.
2
2
o'clock.
o'clock, right?
Yep.
All right. See you guys next time.